As you're aware, the Office of Registrar of Political Parties is an independent state office in the meaning of Article 260 of the Constitution and created through the Political Parties Act. And the mandate, the key mandate of the Office of the Registrar of Political Parties is to register and regulate political parties as well as administration of the political parties fund. Now, this word regulation is the elephant in the room, and it's a very broad mandate. So for you to be able to regulate the political party, there is need to be able to have the legal and regulatory framework as well as institutionalization of those political parties themselves so that it becomes easy to regulate. And we draw our mandate further from the Constitution. In Kenya, the Article 4 of the Kenya Constitution says Kenya is a multi-party democracy founded on the national principles, national values and principles of governance. So the institution that ensures that we have thriving political multi-party democracy in the country is majorly ORPP among other institutions. Similarly, Article 38 of the Constitution talks about the political rights. The Office of the Registrar of Political Parties plays a big mandate in implementation of that article, because specifically there is the right to join political party, the right to participate in activities of the political parties, and the right also to be members of the political parties of their choice. So these are our constitutional provisions. And therefore, being the office that regulates political parties, we found it fit to be able to come up with a political education sourcebook. We've had a lot of education on what's called voter education, which our sister organization IBC has done very well. We've had civic education ongoing for quite some time, and we want to appreciate the role of the civil society in doing that. But there is this element of political education which has been found to be an orphan. And the Office of the Registrar of Political Parties felt that it has a duty and responsibility to Kenyans to be able to fill in that gap. And that is why we have come up with the idea of production of this sourcebook. And you're also aware that the Article 1 of the Constitution provides that sovereign power belongs to the people of Kenya, which is exercised directly or indirectly through democratically elected representatives. Most of these democratically elected representatives come from political parties. And in line with this provision, it is imperative that citizens are placed at the center of governance and public service. One way of enhancing the capacity of the public to effectively participate in governance is through such an initiative of political education, and citizens need to be provided with right information that will enable them to effectively participate in public affairs and national development. Article 33(1) of our Constitution states that every person has the right of freedom of expression, which includes freedom to seek, receive, and impart information or ideas. This is our Constitution speaking, and we found that as a state actor and a duty bearer, we need to give information to Kenyans. Civic and political education will therefore ensure that citizens have enhanced knowledge, understanding, ownership of our Constitution as well as the political and electoral process in this country. Ladies and gentlemen, the purpose of this book is to have an informed citizenry that actively participate in governance affairs of the society on the basis of enhanced knowledge, understanding, and ownership. It is intended to impart information and create awareness of civic morals and values, rights and responsibilities, and on how these are exercised and accessed by all citizens within society, including disadvantaged and marginalized groups. The book is also intended to be used in combination with other participatory governance tools for purpose of having more effective and inclusive participation by citizens in socio-economic, political, and governance processes affecting their lives. It is aimed to be a reference guide for training of political party officials, members, aspirants, and the general public on the political and electoral process, as well as laws governing regulations, operations, and registration of political parties in Kenya. Ladies and gentlemen, the book is composed of 15 chapters, and these chapters, apart from the number one is introduction, the other one is legal and regulatory framework, under which we have captured international instruments, treaties, standards, and best practices, and discussed the constitutional, statutory, and regulatory framework for political and electoral processes in Kenya. Chapter 2 talks about registration of political parties, which gives in the requirements to be registered as a political party and all the processes through which political parties go through for them to get registered. And there is a whole lot of laws and regulations that guides that, and that has been made public now through this book. Chapter 4 talks about leadership and eligibility criteria. But before that, it talks about political party membership and information management. That is chapter 4. Political party membership and information management. This goes to the details of eligibility to join a party, sources of party membership, which is going to be a good guide for political parties where they can get members, as well as the rights and responsibilities of political party members. This needs to be made public because Kenyans are a bit shy about political parties, and we are very open as the Office of Registrar of Political Parties. The best way to manage politics in Kenya is through political parties, and Kenya should not feel shy from joining the political parties of their choice. It also talks about data management for political party members and a whole lot of the processes in the office where we have integrated political parties management system while taking into consideration data protection laws, as well as also training members or political parties on proper record keeping. Chapter 5 talks about party organization and management, and in this we have talked about the constitutional requirement for political parties, including the requirement for them to have national character, and also for political parties to be able to be upholding national values and principles of governance. Here we are talking about institutionalization of political parties, where we talk about the financing policies, the HR policies, the various organs of political parties. For you to be a political party, you must have administrative organs and structures, and that is what this chapter talks about, and how a political party can be organized for it to be able to deliver services to its members and to the country. Chapter 6 talks about funds administration, and this is where we underscore the importance of funds as a basic resource for sustenance of a political party, and we talk about the various sources of funds for political parties and why members should not feel shy from funding their political parties. What Mwambua talked about, expecting money from leaders, the opposite should be the norm, where members are supposed to be funding their parties because they believe in the ideologies of those parties, and therefore they should be able to, fund their parties. The chapter also talks about the political parties fund, that is state fund to political parties, and the various eligibility requirement, and more so the role of the registrar in terms of ensuring that those funds are utilized in the right way. Talks about transparency and prudence in utilization of the funds, and also the requirement for those funds to be audited by the Office of the Auditor General. So details about those funds management are captured in that chapter. Chapter 7 talks about coalitions and mergers. This is a political reality in this country, and we have realized that mergers are the norm. Political parties have realized that single party might not be able to make headways in the current political situation of the country, and therefore a very detailed explanation on why the mergers and what are the requirements, what are the legal and provincial requirements, and for now, under the new amendments to the Political Parties Act, we also have what is called a coalition political party. We have managed to explain these things in very clear terms to Kenyans so that they can be aware of what are mergers, why mergers, and what are the requirements and the checklist for registration of coalition and mergers. And then the next chapter talks about inclusivity and participation of persons, special interest groups. This is something very dear to our office, and we have even changed our laws. The Political Parties Act has been amended to ensure that the special interest groups are included in party structures, party activities, and party leadership, and also in the electoral process. So the chapter is detailed on that. And it talks also about the challenges and barriers to meaningful participation by special interest groups. We have gone ahead to highlight some of those barriers, and the chapter also goes further to recommend effective representation of special interest groups in all spheres of our life. The next chapter talks about leadership and eligibility criteria for political positions. And this, we found it important because in our interaction with aspirants, when we trained across the country, we realized that there is very little information by those aspiring to hold political leadership about the eligibility criteria and requirements, and the chapter talks very clear about that. We also went further to capture qualities of a good leadership, good leaders, both ethical and constitutional requirements. We have not just restricted ourselves to the constitutional requirement, we went further to touch on ethical requirements. Just for information, even if it's not enforceable, we have also talked about requirements of a leader and detailed eligibility criteria to vie for various elective positions in this country, from the president to the MCA. The next chapter talks about political party primaries. This is again something very dear to us, and we will not tire to appreciate the political parties in conducting their party nominations this time around much better than the previous elections. Kudos to all the political parties. And what the MCA was wondering about is a creation of the law, and because we realized some of the issues that is bringing conflicts, party conflicts is the nomination itself. So the law gave room for other methods of nomination by political parties, and therefore we were able to cover that. We have very detailed coverage of that. There is also, the next chapter talks about campaign planning and strategy. There is very important information for those who are aspiring to run for election, ranging from elements of an election campaign, fundraising, mapping of electoral area, and many other things. The next chapter talks about strategic communication. Again, we found that communication of candidates is important. Training leaders and about public relation, media relation, branding, and many other things is covered under that chapter. Then chapter 13 talks about management of political conflict. Again, a very detailed analysis of the source, cause, and effect of conflict, and we also talked about how to prevent those conflicts from arising, but when they arise, also a detail on alternative dispute resolution mechanism. The next chapter talks about managing political and election outcomes. Here we are saying that anybody going to an election should expect a win or a lose, and winners must be grateful, they must give vision and plan, and they must reassure those who have not voted for them and extend an olive branch to those who lost. Losers should appreciate the support they have received acknowledge their opponent's victory and also, pledge support, because there's always a next time. Very detailed about being humble in winning and being gracious, and also for those who lost, how to manage the loss. The next chapter talks about emerging issues. Finally, these are also issues that we feel will affect and continue to affect in the future. They might not have developed into trends now, but we expect some of these issues to find themselves in the mainstream matters as we go ahead. So emerging issues have also been captured very well. So this is a detailed source book. We know it's bulky. We have plans to have abridged versions. We have plans to break them down into manuals so that every chapter can be a manual of its own, and that's what we intend to do, and it will go online. That's what we want to assure you. So ladies and gentlemen, that is the book. The manual is already in circulation. We have just revised it, and once you are able to get a copy, because of time I may not be able to talk about it, but we also have the checklist and the guidebook for agents. So those materials are ready for consumption. And I want to end by saying that the office will continue to do its mandate. We might stand danger of being accused of detranquilizing a subservient population, but this is our duty and we must do it. We want Kenyans to be educated politically. Thank you very much, and thank you for giving me the time, and God bless. And
okay. Palipo na wazee hapaharibiki jambo. I want to finish off. Once he took over, I was not supposed to take it back again. But let me just finish off by saying that I'm grateful. Kuna wala wananiuliza jina. My name is Papi Odek. Papi is P-A-P-I. It's Papi. It's not Papi. Somebody say Papi. Tell your neighbor Papi. I interact with a lot of political parties, especially at the People Dialogue Festival.